Stanza 2. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora in the country green, dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful Hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. So what Keats is saying in this stanza is essentially, dang, I wish I had a nice bottle of wine to help me drown my sorrows and maybe cheer me up a little bit, so I can forget about all the bad stuff that's going on. And guys, remember, at this point in time, Keats has lost most of his family, most of them to tuberculosis. That's also what he, at this point in time, has realized he is also going to claim his own life. And remember, he was about our age. He was only 25 when he passed away. So there are a few things going on here. Keats loves his alliteration. He also loves his allusions. Let's start with alliteration in the second line of this stanza. The deep delved earth, or as he probably would have said, the deep delved earth. This is meant to draw our attention to, although his concrete imagery is hard to ignore anyway, it's meant to draw our attention to that again, the deep delved earth. Remember, the Romantics were pretty much obsessed with nature being a purifying, powerful, eternal force. Next line, we have an allusion. Tasting of flora in the country green. He's saying he wishes that he had a wine that had been put in a dark place for a long time, put in the earth to rest, to ferment, to, mature, and that when he tastes it, it tastes of flora, which was the Roman goddess of flowers. So it tastes like flowers and the countryside. It's a really flavorful wine. It tastes like dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. It tastes like happiness, mirth. An allusion, provincial is an allusion to wine specifically from the south of France. So it's a floral, delicious floral wine from the south of France. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful Hippocrene. He's basically just going on and on about, oh, man, I wish I had this amazing fantasy wine. Hippocrene is another allusion, and if we scroll down to our footnote here, the Hippocrene was the fountain of the Muses, who were goddesses of the poetry and the arts, they lived on Mount Helicon in Greece. And the waters of this fountain would inspire, it says in the book poets, but it really was for any sort of creative type, with a special emphasis, British poets believed, on poets. All right, so let's scroll back up here. So if we move down to the third stanza, it says, fade far away, dissolve and quite forget what thou amongst the leas hast never known. The weariness, the fever and the fret, here where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and leaden despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. What this stanza here is saying is, I want to fade away from and forget all of the pain and misery that comes with being mortal, that comes with being a human being, versus being a part of nature, which Romantics, again, thought of as pure and untouched by time, untouched by the mental torment that humans have, because they know that they're going to die. We're aware of our own mortality. And specifically this reference to youth growing pale and spectre thin and dying, that I personally think is a reference to his brother Tom, who perished shortly before he wrote this poem. That really did a number on Keats emotionally. All right, let's move on to the fourth stanza. Away, Away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his pards, but on the viewless wings of poesy, though the dull brain perplexes and retards. Already with thee, tender is the night, and haply the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry fays. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown, through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. So here he's saying, although I can't get drunk, I can enjoy nature and pretend to be a part of it for a while. Let me break that down, because it's not really that clear unless you understand the allusions that he's making. So Bacchus is the Roman god of wine. So he's saying, away, I'll fly away from my problems. I will fly to the bird, the symbol of nature, not charioted by Bacchus and his pards. Bacchus was pulled by a chariot of dogs. So I'm not going to get drunk to go away with you, but instead I'll use my imagination. I'll use poesy. Although my brain is slow and confused, I'm already with you. And when I'm with you, the night is tender, the night is sweet. The queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry fays. Fays being from the British Celtic literature of fays, fairies basically. He's saying that there's stars around me, there are lights around me, there are fairies around me. There's something magical about nature. And but there's no light except what's blown around by the nature, except what nature gives me. Alright, so I'm going to stop here, and then the next video will continue.